One of my absolute favorite things to make at the end of basil growing season, which for me is early fall in Tennessee, is pesto. But I don't make it the traditional way. So let me show you my recipe for pesto. Welcome to the Salt and Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today we're gonna make a very easy recipe for pesto, but it's not your traditional pesto that's made with pine nuts, because oftentimes I don't have pine nuts on hand. So I substitute in pistachios for the pine nuts, and I find it to be even more delicious than the traditional way of making it. And the beauty is that you can make it with any kind of nuts that you like. I've seen it made with cashews, and of course pistachios is what we're going to use today, or you could do the traditional pine nuts. It would be perfectly fine. The way to make pesto is using a food processor or a blender. In this case is what I'm going to use. And the blender is capable of doing food processing. So if you don't have a blender that has blades that go all the way up like this, then I would use your food processor. It's going to be the easiest way to get this done. And you need 4 cups of basil that is off of the stems and clean. And I'm just going to go ahead and put that right in to the blender here. Now, if you didn't have 4 cups, you could cut it down to 2 cups or even 1 cup, and then just cut all the other ingredients back. All right, and then we're gonna add in 1/2 cup of pistachios that have the shells off, of course. And we're gonna add in 1½ ounces, or about 3/4 of a cup of finely shredded Parmesan cheese. And I'm gonna add in 1/2 teaspoon of fine ground sea salt and 1/2 teaspoon of a coarser pepper. So if you don't have a restaurant grade pepper like I do, it's just a little coarser. Then if you have a pepper grinder, just freshly grind the pepper. And I'm gonna add that in. And the last ingredient is olive oil, or you could use avocado oil if you wanted to, or whatever kind of oil you wanted to use. But I don't put that in right away, and I don't even keep like a steadfast rule of how much I'm gonna add. Okay, I'm probably gonna add about 1/2 cup, but I just let the ingredients tell me how much it needs, okay? And I'll show you how I think about that and go through that. All right, so let's turn the blender on, and the only thing I'm gonna do here is just pulse a couple times. So now that I have everything pulsed up, I'm gonna open up my little spout here, and I'm just gonna start pouring in the olive oil. Until I start to see it. Sorry, you can't hear me when I'm spinning that. Until I start to see it form the pesto, a paste like. Go ahead and let's just look at the consistency of it real quick. See if we need any more olive oil. Okay, so this pesto, let me just put some out in this little bowl here, because this is totally up to you. Okay, this is a thick pesto. If you wanted thinner pesto, add a little bit more oil to it. Because I'm gonna freeze this, I think I'm gonna leave it like that. So I put in probably close to, I would say, 1/4 cup to 1/3 of a cup of olive oil. I could definitely go up to 1/2 cup though and be fine. But I think I'm just gonna leave it just like this, okay? But certainly you can put more oil in it and make it thinner. That's perfectly fine. I think I'm gonna use it on some spaghetti squash noodles. So I'll add some butter, and that will thin it out and make it coat those noodles and then give that richness from the butter. I think that's gonna be delicious. All right, let me scoop this out into my bowl, and then I'll give it a taste real quick, because you do want to taste for seasonings, and then I'll talk about how to freeze it. All right, that looks great. Now let me just give it a nice mix. It looks so beautiful. And now oh my, delicious. It doesn't need any more salt. Oh my gosh, so delicious. Okay, Well, this is a drier pesto. I want to make sure that you guys know that. So if you want it a little looser, add some more oil in and just, mix it up. All right, now I'm going to take a little scoop, which is about a tablespoon, and I'm just going to put it on my tray here. Now, I would say that this makes about 1.5 cups to 1 3/4 cups of pesto, just for reference. And then I'll plop these in the freezer. And once they are frozen solid, then what I will do is put them in a baggie, and then anytime I need pesto, I'll just grab what I need out. You can also store it in the refrigerator. I would make it a little bit more in the olive oil to store in the refrigerator. The other thing you can add in, which I didn't because I find it sometimes gives a really pungent flavor, that is some garlic, just raw garlic cloves. So I usually just keep that out of my pesto, but you can absolutely add it in. You could add in some roasted garlic too. That would be delicious. Little baby there. All right. That's all there is to making your own homemade pesto. You can control the ingredients, control the amounts. You can leave out the salt. You can decrease the cheese. You can change the nuts. The only thing that I think is pretty traditional in a pesto is basil, but who knows? They might even have some other kind of pesto that is made with basil. So get creative, make it yours, make it delicious, and keep it real.